Dangor. It's been such an inspirational segment with our previous guest, and she's definitely been making such an impact. Isabel Kamaritza has taken, should we say, social impact to another level by, of course, and I didn't even bring that to the fore earlier, by the Queen Elizabeth II as the 55th Point of Light awardee, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. And I think each one has a purpose that we're serving in our lives. And this is where we get to our next guest, Rehana Moosajee, known as the Barefoot Facilitator. That's what her company is known as. Is passionate about people, places, potential, and planet. She's committed to creativity, collaboration, and connection. She has been invited to various local and international platforms to share from the heart. Her assignments have included, amongst others, well-being economies, food systems, eco-mobility, placemaking, and staying connected to nature in rapidly urbanizing contexts. Rihanna's style is characterized by bringing the richness of her life experiences authentically into her work, from from retreats in Rajasthan to business principles from Bhutan to interfaith, intercultural tours of Turkey. She combines her professional training in education with her years of community activism and a 13-year stint in local government with the deep learning she has gained from the opportunities that life has brought to her. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A warm welcome to you, Rehana Moosajee. Thank you so much for joining me on the Mid-Morning Show. It's such a pleasure having you on.
Walaikum salam, Nafeesa, and shukran for the invitation. It's a delight to be in your company.
I think it's delightful to speak to people like yourselves. I mean, I just spoke to a guest earlier and she's inspired and enticed us into such a space. And I think this is what it's about, is being able to uplift and move people forward. And I think the, should we say, fulfillment you get from that, there's no other place to be. So let's talk a little bit about your journey.
So, Nafeesa, born and bred Joburg, Lens to be precise, grew up there, public school, model primary school, Lenasia Secondary, Lens High, then went on to study at Wits University, did a BA education, first teaching post, Nurul Islam Girls in Lens, because at the time university graduates were not particularly welcome in public school places. Mm-hmm. Seen as slightly troublesome and problematic. And then, went on to leave teaching, primarily because the teaching fraternity is not very friendly to young mothers, right? You're expected to leave your kids at home to take care of other people's children and educate them. And that didn't work so well for me. And then had an offer to join the first ever parliamentary constituency office in Lenasia and work with amazing members of parliament, late Uncle Kathy, late Uncle Isu, Ismail Vadi. But they allowed me to bring baby to work, Nafeesa, and that was great. I was like there breastfeeding and working and all of that. And that was a very instructive point in my life in understanding community activism, but that was kind of 94, 95. And then obviously with the advent of democracy and Lens feeling really far from everything, we moved up to Joburg, closer to the city center, and still at home with the kids and getting involved with voluntary work, and was quite involved with the Voice radio station, did a children's program on The Voice called Our Treasure Chest many years ago, and saw the power of community media at that time, and really want to salute all of you at Salam Media for the role that you play as community media in bringing not just community stories, but international trends into people's homes. So really had that stint where I was writing for the Times of Mayfair, then tried corporate, hated it, and ran very quickly from corporate, went back to...
The reason I'm laughing, Rihanna, is you sound like my previous guest. She had exactly the same thing to say. She wanted to become a lawyer and then eventually ended up doing social impact, and she's now taken the Forbes 30 under 30. So it's
Wow.
great to see people like yourselves eventually, should we say, find your purpose in life, because I think each and every one of us has that, but I think we don't realize it after we've, I think, gone through those certain hurdles. The light dawns upon us, and then we realize, wait a minute, this is what we are here for on this earth. This is our purpose. This is our fulfillment.
And I think one is constantly rediscovering that, Nafeesa. But I
Yeah.
mean, corporate, within a month, I knew this is not for me. And then went back to my classroom and teaching, which I absolutely love. And then was approached to, so at that time was quite involved in local politics, and was approached to stand on the PR list, proportional representation list for the city of Johannesburg on the ANC ticket in 2000. This was the advent of democratic local government in the country. Knew nothing, Nafeesa, absolutely nothing about council, what a councillor does. I remember very clearly my first council meeting was in Ramadan. It was the elections, I think, was on the 5th of December, and somewhere in that time, the first council meeting sat, and it was in Ramadan. I didn't have my driver's license. The late Uncle Saeed Kachalia picked me up from home and took me, and I was like, I had been in activist meetings up until that point, but like it's the first time I'm sitting in a council chamber. The agendas are kind of that thick. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here, feeling completely lost about it. So I had my first stint in local government 2000 to 2006, and then contested the ward where I lived, was very confident that we were going to win it, but lost it because we lost one voting station by such a big margin, Westdean, that we lost. And I thought I would leave politics at that time, but the ANC had given me the opportunity to both contest the ward and stay on the proportional representation list. And then I was appointed in 2006 by Mayor Masondo to be the member of the mayoral committee for the portfolio transport.
Wow.
Knew little to nothing about transport.
That's like from one end right to the other.
And this was in the run up to the country hosting the World Cup. And Joburg was the only city in the history of the World Cup that would have two World Cup venues in one city, Soccer City and Ellis Park.
Right.
And the mayor was very clear we were going to use the pressure of hosting this global event to leave decisive legacy for our own citizens. And of course, transport was assumed to be amongst the legacy areas. And so started the journey of the Rea Vaya project, Nafeesa, which was literally life-threatening. Had my VIP protector shot at 2:00 in the morning outside our home.
That's
Lots
scary,
of trauma.
eh?
So it was, Nafeesa, I mean, I think you get to that point where you realize the protection only comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I remember at some point watching the story about the late Dalla Umar, and the times the apartheid government had tried to poison him and so forth, and the number of times he had survived various attempts on his life. And I remember being quite struck. This was before being appointed to transport, being quite struck by that story, that, ultimately we have our fears. It's very human to have those. But in fact, you've got to fulfill your purpose, and you've got to know that your creator is watching over you.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt.
That
I absolutely love your way of thinking, because that is so true. And I think with that mindset is what has actually moved you into many a good spaces and direction. Now that we're talking about purpose, I want to talk to you about Crosby I Care, because that's one of the projects that's close to your heart. Let's get into it. Talk to us about the project and what it means for you. I mean, that is, they always say charity begins at home. And it's nice to see that you've taken all those amazing things that you've learned throughout your experiences, and you're now actually implementing it in your own space.
So trying, Nafeesa. So in 2013, I resigned from the city of Johannesburg voluntarily, and didn't know what next, and then set up my own company. Initially, it was called Rehana Moosajee Consulting, and then late 2017, changed the name to the Barefoot Facilitator. And I do a lot of work on international platforms, as you kind of indicated in the introduction, on placemaking, on well-being economies. But these things are easy to talk about in theory. They're much more difficult to do. And so, Nafeesa, can you still hear me?
Yes, yes, we're online.
Okay.
We just wanted to do a broader picture of you so people can see
Okay.
exactly what is going on.
No, that's fine. It was just nice to actually see you there.
Okay. There we
No,
go.
that's
That's
fine.
better.
So Nafeesa, set up the Barefoot Facilitator in 2017, and as I'm saying, I work on international platforms where I talk about these issues regularly, about how do we empower local communities where levels of unemployment are high, where poverty is rife. And the community of Slovo Park informal settlement were actually there when I moved into this area over 24 years ago. And in fact, nothing has considerably improved in their physical conditions. But it's not about me kind of moving in there and figuring out how do I help. I think Crosby I Care firstly tries to bring the community of Slovo Park and the neighboring area of Crosby. Slovo Park is located in Crosby, but bring the settled formal community closer in creating opportunities for our neighbors in Slovo, many of whom have skills, who don't
Most
particularly have.
definitely. And I think that's bridging the gap because they're in a situation where they need the help to be empowered and uplifted. And I think many a times people don't actually understand those particular constraints that they're going through.
So absolutely, Nafeesa, and I think the project is really an experiment. I had observed and continue to observe lockdown self-imposed very strictly. I'm practically still on a level 5 self-imposed
Right.
lockdown because but when I came out of my house post the hard lockdown, I live across from a park called Sir
Okay.
Drummond Chaplin
Rehana,
Park.
can we just hold on that thought? We're going to go for a quick ad break and we're going
Sure,
to be back with you in 2 seconds. Thank you.
no problem.
Dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
DoosieMed Medicine Depot Retail Pharmacy and Emergency Medical Depot. Conveniently situated in the DoosieMed Medical Center, Corner Burger and Bosser Street, Pietermaritzburg. We provide safe, affordable and convenient medical facilities. Open till 10 p.m. every day of the year. We have a full house clinic that operates from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., which is run by a qualified sister. The clinic offers immunization, vaccination, wellness, general consultation, and more. Call DoosieMed Medicine Depot on 033 3421 DoosieMed Medicine Depot, your pharmacy of choice.
A strip of land with over 2 million people blockaded for 13 years. Healthcare is on its knees, food is scarce, and water is inadequate. COVID has wreaked havoc in the lives of the people of Gaza. 53% of the population live below the poverty line. 80% of Gaza relies on external aid to survive. And 20,000 children are now orphans. The future is bleak. Please, don't forget Gaza. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back, and we're in conversation with Rehana Moosajee, the barefoot facilitator. And before we left, we were talking about the constraints that the people in the Slovo Park area are going through. Welcome back. As we know, we were speaking about the constraints and the challenges that face in your area. And as you were saying, we were just talking about Slovo Park before we left. So let's pick up from there.
So Nafeesa, as I indicated, post lockdown, walked out. I live across from a park in Crosby, a beautiful park. It's called Sir Drummond Chaplin Park. But I was horrified to see the state of the park. It was absolutely filthy, and decided that we can't continue like this. I don't have any intention of kind of moving to another area, finding greener pastures. And saying, what can we do? And Crosby I Care is really a little experiment to see if we could create not jobs, but some earning opportunities for people in Slovo Park to assist with cleaning the park. And that is just, it started off as park cleaning, and then it just took on a momentum of its own. People from Slovo have been bringing the kids to play soccer on the park, and then they asked for a donation of a football, donated one soccer ball, saw the absolute delight of almost 50 kids and one little soccer ball, and realized that often we don't have perspective given our relative privilege. And so from there, the project has kind of evolved into Saturday mornings, creating a play space for kids on the park. And we're now in a conversation with Johannesburg City Parks about the possibility of Crosby I Care and the Barefoot Facilitator adopting the park, which would give us the opportunity to make the entire project a little more sustainable, because right now, like this little woman-owned company, the Barefoot Facilitator is carrying this project, but we need to build sustainability into it. But more than anything, as I said, it's an experiment. I'm loving it. Was out this morning, horrified that someone living in the area chose yesterday to once again dump on the park. But we're getting there, and it is about the vision of a clean, safe, green space, particularly for women and children.
Rehana, would you also say that it's education? Because I think a lot of people in the Crosby area, find that it's very difficult to interact with people from the Slovo area. I think they're not used to it. They're not accustomed to it. And it's having to educate them on how we can uplift and empower and change things for the better in the entire area.
So Nafeesa, in fact, this was brought to me by a Professor Mackenzie, who's a psychiatrist, interestingly enough, British-born, living in Canada, who talked about the best pathways out of poverty are actually for people who have networks to people with networks. And so I've seen this in action with this project starting with my gardener, Given, from Slovo Park, who is now, who I've become the link to other people that are opening up opportunities for this entire community that they wouldn't have had if there wasn't someone to bridge it. And so I think, I'm learning that when we talk poverty, unemployment, inequality, it's not always just about making money available. Yes. People who have skills, networks, and abilities can really open up pathways out of poverty for others.
And that is so true. And I mean, it's through providing, should we say, skills development, helping to uplift them that way, education. I mean, just the other day, because I do a bit of NPO work on the side as well, came across a child in Slovo that has come out from Slovo, involved with gangsterism, involved with drugs, involved with, hitting his father where he wants what he wants because he needs it. And then, of course, through my networking, decided to, instead of, because they stole my worker's cell phone, the little son. And it's having to understand the situation they're in and why they did it. So instead of me getting harsh on it, we decided that the better way to solve the problem is because his school's in the Westbury area, and I knew a foundation there that can reach out to him and help him and change his life for the better, was to get them involved. Then I called the gentleman and asked him to please get involved and try and help this child to be able to understand that he can move into a better space. And being a gangster or living in that type of environment is not the true way of life. That's not the reality of it. But I think we also need to understand the realities that they face.
Absolutely. And Nafeesa, I think there's a misunderstanding that people living in informality don't have a challenge with crime and safety. In fact, when the young people I'm working with were asked, they went through a project to identify the biggest challenges in their community, it was things like waste of water, taps that are running. It was lack of safety. It was teenage pregnancy. It was drugging. It was the same issues in many ways that impact people irrespective of where they live. And I think part of Crosby I Care is also about, can we see our common humanity beyond race, beyond class? And inshallah, just hoping that a lot of, as I said, what I talk about in theory, we can actually together begin to build more caring communities.
Most definitely. And should we say better communities? Because I think education is the biggest issue at the moment. And I mean, Nelson Mandela, ex-President Nelson Mandela always spoke about how important it is to have education and what education does for the people. And I think having to reach out in that Slovo area and try and empower those kids through education is definitely going to change their lives, because they're so used to seeing the one side of things. They're definitely going to get a different perspective from being educated.
So Nafeesa, can I take a slightly controversial view on the education piece? Coming with an education background myself, I think a Western-driven education system has schooled us into a notion of individual success. So go out there and be the best you can be, get the top career in medicine, in IT, in law. And we've forgotten the heart-based approaches to life. And a lot of my facilitation work is saying, yes, we need the head, but how do we move from head to heart? And I think Islamically, the power of the heart, and in fact, scientifically, the Institute for Heart Math, for example, beginning to prove that the magnetic power of the heart is 10 times stronger than that of the brain. And so I think education that is not about planet, that is not about community, is actually quite empty. If it's about how big a house do I build, how expensive a car do I drive, and what designer clothes can I get onto my body, quite frankly, that's a failed education system, in my opinion.
I think it's about the life skills. It's about teaching them about life and the richness in personality and the characteristics that go with it, and the principles and the ethics that need to be brought into play. And it's nice to see that the schools are doing life orientation. But I think these types of things that you bring into the fore now should be inculcated in that, so that when these kids from young, they have a different perspective as far as what the importance of life is. And I think, like you say, we've been punning it on the materialistic level of life, but there's more to life than that, and we're forgetting about the essence of life, like the morals and the principles and the types of ethics that we need to have, and the types of interaction as individuals we need to have. And of course, let's not forget the humanitarianism and the humility that goes with it.
So Nafeesa, I think one of my major concerns is the way in which we articulate, and this is where the issue of well-being economies is quite interesting, because we tend to measure people's value on their employment status. So literally we say 50% of South Africans unemployed, crisis, and of course it is. But the fact that you don't have a job doesn't make you a lesser human being. And I think the lack of agency that we've created amongst people, and I think government is quite culpable in this, and having been part of local government myself, I want to say that this notion of government as some sort of delivery vehicle that is going to come and do everything for every community. And we pay, I mean, I've been told in the Crosby I Care project, when we were trying to get signatures to show city parks that we've got overall support from the community, just, people saying, well, I pay my rates and taxes. I don't see why any local business or community organization should be cleaning the park. City parks must just come here and clean up. And I think the sense that we've taken away people's agency and ability to do things for themselves. And kind of people are waiting for some messiah in some political party to come and liberate them economically and in totality. And it's not going to happen. And I think it is about the...
Rehana, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to intervene there. We seem to be running out of time. What quick message would you have for us today before we leave? We seem to be run out of time here, but I'm hoping to catch up with you real soon to see what's going on there as far as the Crosby I Care is concerned. One quick message from you.
We all can do something to make a difference.
Most definitely. You couldn't have said it better. But before we go, I'm very aching to ask you the question, why the barefoot facilitator? It's been on my mind all the time.
So, Nafeesa, it was literal. I was facilitating in Tshwane one day. I kicked off my shoes and was facilitating barefoot. But it's also very symbolic in relation to reconnecting to the earth and the humility of being barefoot and not on high heels.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It has been nothing but a pleasure and an inspiration to speak to such phenomenal people like yourselves who go out there and give so selflessly. So from myself and the Salam Media team, we'd like to commend you on all the accolades and the work that you've done from the humanitarian perspective. Thank you so much for being a part of us and helping us help others to be able to live in better spaces and better places. You take care of yourself, and we'll catch up with you real soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Shukran.
And that was Sister Rehana Moosajee, definitely giving us a take on how to help those that are in worse places than we are and helping them move forward. I'm going to end now quickly with a closing saying, this new day has greeted us with no rules, unconditional opportunity. Do not dilute the power of this new day with the hardship of yesterday. Greet this day the way it has greeted you, with open arms and endless possibility, by Steve Maraboli. From myself and the team, have a lovely one and Ramadan Mubarak, and we'll see you on our Ramadan show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.